And her father kept saying, I see myself in the mirror and I don't see any anger. My daughter and my son are the only people who see anger. I really don't.
Mhm.
It- Somehow I was able to just say, have you thought about another mirror? He got hysterical laughing, and he told his daughter that was it too late to try to find a therapist as confronting as me? Now, I wasn't just confronting, but I wasn't letting him get away with the I look in the mirror. So look in another mirror. Um, I kind of feel like helping him jump out the window. It's like, now, this is not the nice girl I expected to be. If he can push these things out in me, if he can provoke me to this extent, I must have this in me. Now, little did I know that I was recognizing Carl Jung, the who really was the first one to talk about the shadow, and the shadow being the parts of us that scare us mostly. I am so grateful for the presence of Gabor Mate in the world because he is like the trauma guru and he's older than me, which is so exciting. And he is like, he really sparked a revolution in me, even in the last number of years, where I could really embrace working on my trauma as growth and something new.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Passion from Pain. And some people spend their lives collecting answers, others spend their lives asking better questions. And today's guest has been doing both for nearly 8 decades. Carol Smaldino is a licensed clinical social worker, a lifelong student of the human psyche, and a woman who has lived long enough and deeply enough to know that understanding alone doesn't heal you. Doing the work does. Feeling it does. And owning your shadow does. She's a therapist who admits she's had trauma, a healer who stopped trying to save everyone else to finally save herself, and a deep thinker with with a dancing mind, an intuition sharpened by experience, and a sense of humor that refuses to let wisdom turn her sterile. And then there's Dr. Ethel, clad head to toe in orange, armed with an English accent and a fearless appetite for truth. Dr. Ethel arrived on a rescue mission, called in when the world felt too heavy and crazy was when and zaniness, I guess, was required to survive it. She's irreverent, piercing, and not here to make anyone comfortable, including Carol. Together, they explore what we hide, what we project, and what happens when vulnerability is treated like a weakness instead of a gateway to empathy. From young shadow to modern polarization, from saving others to reclaiming the self, this is a conversation for anyone who senses that the real danger isn't feeling too much, but feeling nothing at all. This isn't a lecture. It's not a performance. It's a conversation. The kind that leaves you thinking long after the mic goes quiet. So, welcome to Passion from Pain and welcome, Carol Smaldino, to the show. I'm so excited that we're here, my dear. I've been looking forward to this conversation with you for some time now.
Well, thanks. And, I feel like you kind of said it all. So, what is there that you want me to say? Now, I have stuff to say. I'll tell you the once upon a time version.
Okay.
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 Uh, okay. Well, I want to say it's taken me a long time to accept that I have creativity and that intuition is creativity. That was told to me by an artist in Italy who does a paper festival every 2 years. And it was very deep for me.
Yeah.
So, but when I was younger, I was very intimidated by two older big brothers. Yeah. Actually, they were big and older.
Mm,
And my father, who was in there as sort of self-proclaimed intellectuals, I would say. And I just felt like I didn't have a voice. I mean, I got kind of good grades in school, but yeah, nothing stellar, nothing. But when I was 11, I had some trouble with my oldest brother who was annoying, and I'm being polite. He said stuff that made me cry. She didn't really hear it. She kept saying, you really just have to understand. You have to understand, apropos of what you said before, that, trauma it's not enough to understand it really anyway. But she said, you just have to understand he had a difficult time. So I think I thought, wow, here's something I could wrap my head around. So I started this thing that I called playing psychologist. I had a friend, her name was Diane. Her
mm,
name is Diane. And she waited outside my room. I gave her the problem. She knocked at the door. She came in. I solved the problem. Have no recollection of what these were. Obviously not that deep. Um, she came at, she went out,
mm,
she came in. And I kept on inventing problems. And I thought, okay, I'll be a psychologist. Now, what I really kind of should have been, shoulda, woulda, coulda, would have been either an actress or an interpreter. I was really good at imitation. I was really good at languages, even the grammar. So, but I was discouraged by the same older brother. Okay. So I said, all right, I won't do that. I'll save the world. And by that, I kind of mean, uh, I'll save people. Like, it took me a long time to realize that really that translated to I'll save my family and then they'll save me.
mm.
Of course, it doesn't kind of work that way because,
No.
what's done is done. But I started out uh, being like a caseworker and I work with poor people and I was good at it. I liked it. I worked with families, worked with multi-problem families. I worked with unwed mothers at the time, that's what they were called. And then I went to social work school. And then I was a therapist at a residential treatment center. And then I kind of freaked out
Oh,
because, I wanted to be nice and sweet and wear pink. I'm wearing a kind of pink today, but I wore red. I was told I looked good in red. Anyway, I wanted to be nice. I wanted to be a good person
mm.
and save people. And wow, these kids gave me a run for my money.
No.
I I felt like I was working with hardcore. I don't even wanna say criminals because I don't wanna put criminals together in a bunch. It was like I was working with abused kids, right?
Okay.
And they had kind of internalized how to abuse, and I think, if I'm gonna be fair, they had felt so helpless in their own lives that the only way they could feel not helpless is by taunting someone in authority. Now, I didn't have that much authority, didn't carry weapons or anything like that. So if I said, well, if you can't do this, we won't do that. And somebody said, I'll be nice. I'll say, just screw you. Like, who cares? It's like, oh my God. I thought, I'm done. And let me just tell you then, in social work school, I don't know if you still do it, but the joke was like, you were taught to say, you must be feeling very angry. You must be feeling very sad. And it's like, if you said that to one of these kids, oh, oh like, forget it. Okay. I'm trying to make my language as clean as I can. I'm a New Yorker.
Oh, you're good. Say what you want. We're good.
Okay, for fucking get it.
Yeah. Fucking get it. I love it.
Okay. So I I I don't know. What happened was that there was this particular kid who had murder in his family and was very scary. He was menacing.
Yeah.
And he scared a lot of people, and he brought out such not nice things in me, man. And this is like one day I was on the 4th floor where I worked, and I said, "You know what? I kind of feel like helping him jump out the window." It's
Huh?
like, let me tell you, I'm young. I'm still in my 20s, and
Yeah.
it's like, holy shit,
Mm.
this is not the nice girl I expected to be. And somehow, I don't know, somehow, I mean, I was in therapy with a not great therapist, although he wasn't bad with anger, but somehow I realized, okay, I did realize this. I looked at him one day and I thought, if he can push these things out in me, if he can provoke me to this extent, I must have this in me.
Yeah.
Now, little did I know that I was recognizing Carl Jung, the really the pioneer psychoanalyst with Freud and then without Freud, who really was the first one to talk about the shadow, and the shadow being the parts of us that scare us mostly, the parts of us that we are so scared of that we have to put in a container that we refuse to know about. And for some of us can realize that some of the leaders we have politically now are just as scared of tenderness as they are of anger. I mean, some people do anger without batting an eyelash, but many people do not. So um I started to kind of get to know this. Well, I started to get to know this, and I remember like it was yesterday sitting on a stairwell with this kid. And honestly, like, nobody told me how to do this. I just said to him, "You know, I don't think I can do this stuff. You are better than me. You are a pro. You, like, have studied this, and you can make me cry, and actually, you can make me feel crazy. You can make me slam the door. The question is, do you wanna help me figure out why you have to do this? Because that's, like, the only thing I could think of." Now, I look back at that and I say, "Man, Carol, this is brilliant. That's kind of smart."
Yeah.
Because it was really the beginning of the kind of work I do still, which is relational, which
Mhm.
I've done as a parent. Like, I'm not sure about this. What do you think? So that there's kind of a co-creation to that.
Mhm.
And then, well, I'll say this. I went to Italy and I was really happy in Italy. So it's like I wasn't manic, I wasn't crazy healthy, but I was just like carefree. And I think Italy was like my home. I learned Italian. I loved the streets of Florence. I loved to get lost. I felt confident in finding my way back. And then I went back a second year, and that was the year I met my husband. And he was not in Florence. He was in the south of Italy. It's a place called Bari, Bari, that is now very famous because it's a gorgeous seaside with fabulous food. And it was like we were in an accident. Crazy. No, it was really like nothing because
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm gonna say it was like nothing
Uh,
because that's the way it seems now, and, nothing terrible happened. I saw him. He was shorter than me. I'd say like pinkies, little teeny. But I thought, there's no way. I can't do this because I need a tall teddy bear. I have tall brothers. So, this is not going to work. So I'm the one who's hurt. I have a fractured foot. And these Southern Italians are very artistic. So they give me a cast that feels like I'm now 6 feet tall. Plus, they put on shoes, I'd say boots on top of that. So
Mhm.
luckily, I spend most of my time sitting down. And luckily, I knew Italian because by then I was an Italian major. And it was like I would never give this advice to someone young, but it's tricky
Mhm.
because I was not ready. He was not ready. And we did the thing.
Okay.
Like I thought, he's going to complete me and I'm going to come to Italy and make spaghetti and be happy. And that's it.
Yeah.
As like, I don't know when I was thinking. I like, who's that? Who's that person? Anyway, so instead, he followed me to New York. What was he thinking? He knew no English. It was really kind of pretty crazy, and we were pretty crazy. I have to say, I we were. It took us a really long time, and it's still happening. Like still happening to kind of appreciate the limitations of the other and the limitations of ourselves. And I don't do gratitude that well. I certainly don't do forced gratitude
Mhm.
well, but I am so grateful for the presence of Gabor Mate in the world because he is like the trauma guru and he's older than me, which is so exciting. And he really sparked a revolution in me, even in the last number of years, where I could really embrace working on my trauma as growth and
Mhm.
something new. Like I am growing.
Yeah.
So we've been married a long time.
Yeah.
Oh God. And I feel mixed about it because I think the best part is that we're still growing. And I think we both feel that way because I'm not really a lover of, oh, you were married 60 years. That's so great. Because I didn't really like that in my parents.
Mhm.
I really wanted them to get a divorce, and I have to say, I feel that there's a lot of courage to getting a divorce. I don't mean, like, doing it like a hobby,
Sure.
but, so and then okay, I'll tell you this 'cause it's it's crazy enough, I just thought of it yesterday, and I just put it on my website, so, you can find it there. Uh, Someone had told me about a psychic. And I was really not into that, but it's only like too many things were like, cool,
Mhm.
good, right. So I got to see this woman. And my husband's name is Lino, which is short for Angela. So first thing she says, and he wants to leave the VA and go into private practice. And he's kidding me because he doesn't believe in any of this. And he says, whatever she says, I'll do. First thing she says is, who is Anthony or Angela? Said, "Okay, Angelo's my husband."
Mhm.
She said, "Well, he's thinking of changing jobs." Now, I'm getting the chills now.
Yeah.
He's thinking of changing jobs, and he should. It's like, okay, we're into that. She says a few things about looking for things from people who were really envious of me, and I think she was right, but I was on my way out, paid, done. She said, "Carol, you need to sit down." I said, "Okay." "You need to write." I said, "Okay." I write some papers. I've written some clinical papers. She says, "No, no, no. You don't understand. Your husband writes a good paper. You have a flair, and you're not supposed to be writing for professionals. You're supposed to be writing for everyone. So, like, and that was heavy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I get home, I get a phone call. Back in the day, you could still get a phone call, and a friend, colleague says, "Guess what? Um, a parenting magazine wants an article on setting limits. Do you wanna do it?" I thought, "Holy shit, this is, like, from her from her mouth to his mouth, whatever," and I've never turned back. I mean, written I've written for Huffington Post on the connection between politics and emotions, and I've written on parenting a lot, and I've written I have certain things that I've kind of invented certain concepts, like, "Is that a monster in the mirror?" I mean, that's the gift of disappointment, the bully and the brain freeze. I'm sure there are others that I'll think of, and I just I kept writing, and honestly, I'm not sure I knew that I had another book in me, but there's someone on the circuit who is very popular and talks about vulnerability a lot and talks about it as something as much smoother than the way I see it. Like, I see it as risky business. I see it as raw, edgy.
Mhm.
And actually, I looked it up in the dictionary. And it was like susceptible to harm,
Mm.
susceptible to risk.
Mhm.
And so I thought, I'm going to write about it. And then, well, Donald Trump came on the scene. And I thought he is an expression of anti vulnerability. Like, he is an expression to me of someone who comes from a very difficult childhood and turns his back on vulnerability, says, I'm just not going to feel it. I mean,
Mhm.
what he said about Rob Reiner, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like he brings insensitivity to, I don't know, kind of the highest or lowest point I've seen in my lifetime. And that's all right. You got the hair, it's a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I decided I had to include that, which meant I had to include the culture.
Mhm.
I had to include the culture, which meant I had to include caste and racism and our tendency to put someone above someone else.
Mm.
So I'd say that and the fact that I still am seeing patients, virtually, but it means to me that I'm still, I'm definitely getting older, but I am definitely in touch with my curiosity and my, you know, and my wanting to learn. And then there's Dr. Ethel. And she doesn't come through well without the orange, but I just got to do the voice. Can I
Yeah,
because
please.
is with me right now.
I've been curious about Dr. Ethel.
Well, you can ask me or her
Okay.
anything. And again, she does come through in the orange much better. But
Uh,
hello, this is Dr. Ethel, brought to you by PBN, Psychobabble Network, and I'm here for you. And that's her beginning.
I love it.
And she's, like maybe if we meet again, we could do a whole thing of Dr. Ethel because let me tell you,
Yeah.
she just, she can go.
Yeah. I
And
love it.
she,
I think we should.
okay. So, so there's her and, there's, there's grandkids and there's the fact that I, I I think I trust my intuition.
Mhm.
Like, and since you can always edit this out, but Colorado is one of the states where psychedelic assisted psychotherapy is legal
Mhm,
and practiced, and I have done it, and I have to say, I have to say 2 things. I would never recommend it as a recreational anything because, at
mhm,
least from my experience, I I went there to work on trauma,
mhm,
and I had so many tears inside of me. I thought I would never stop. But, gradually I did stop, and I started to grow up. And I think I've trusted my intuition and clarity more than ever. And you know how many people are out there who wanna tell you how to think and
mhm.
that you're wrong about what you do. So, I feel like I'm in a good place.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I just love you and I love your stories. And I could listen to them all day. And what an incredible journey you've had and the realizations that you've come to in your life as well. Just some profound realizations. And here in Oregon, we have the legal psychedelics
Yeah.
for psychotherapy as well. And I've heard nothing but good things about it. And I have been wanting to try it myself. Um, I haven't gotten the courage to do it yet. um, but I just might after hearing your experience here from it.
Well,
Um,
one of the things, can I add something to that?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things I would say is the psychedelic assisted so that you're with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to sell it, but you're with somebody who's profoundly trained and ready to be a safe container. And, that's my thing. Uh, oh, so my second book, I never really said, is Vulnerability Protected, because I kind of decided that I don't think it should be sold to anybody
Mhm,
if it's not protected and it's not safe. And I also think there are situations, first of all, in the world today where people are so assaulted that they cannot feel, they
mhm,
cannot afford to feel that. And also, there are times that it's really a wise decision
mhm,
to not feel it because you're in some kind of danger. So I think along these same lines, the idea of a safe space to try
mhm,
this and somebody who can help you regulate, whether it's dose or the feelings,
mhm.
I'm going to say I did
Mhm.
not feel alone.
That's good.
So I did not feel like I'm not one of those people who went out into the wilderness and found
Mhm,
like the truth in everything. In fact, there's a little part of me that says, gee, damn, I wish like I found all the answers and I
mhm,
found God. But I actually, in one of the things, it's not the most personal, I found a group of women who were sitting together with this deep feeling of comfort in the sense of not knowing. Like it was okay
mhm,
not to know in the biggest of ways.
mhm.
So yeah, I'm glad you live in Oregon.
Yeah, I gotta give it a try. I gotta give it a try. I went the medical marijuana route for depression and anxiety, and that helped tremendously when I was having episodes. And so, I really do want to try the psychedelic mushrooms and whatnot for the trauma piece of it and see how that goes for me. But yeah, I mean, there's some amazing benefits to some of this.
Yep.
And it's kind of sad that it's been, so shunned for so long, but that's a whole other podcast episode for sure.
And it's a whole other podcast. But while we're mentioning it, there
Yeah.
is a movie called Fantastic Fungi
Mhm.
and FUNGI that does really talk about the history and kind of why it was shunned.
Mhm.
And there's the voice of Timothy Leary who says,
Uh-huh.
um, "Hey, listen, no one would go to war if they're on this stuff. No one would work for a corporation from 9 to 5."
Right.
And it's like it could revolutionize a lot. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay. So it makes, yeah, okay. Makes a lot of sense. You put those pieces together. You know, you keep the masses pliant,
Yeah.
and they don't want that. They don't want that. That makes the whole system crumble, when we veer off and do our own thing.
Right.
Oh man. Crazy, crazy. So, what do you excuse me. I've been doing a lot of episodes and my voice is just mad at me today. So, um, going back to I'm curious, why did Dr. Ethel become a thing? Where did she come from?
Well, it seems like it could be any year, but I think it was like 20 years ago or 15.
Uh,
And I was sitting in my office and I had, I have 2 books. One is called The Human Climate, and the new one that is not yet out, but is on the website, is called Vulnerability Protected: Visions of a Dancing Mind. But in the first one, I kind of I invented some concepts, but and I talked about I got to the shadow really profoundly, but I was just sitting and contemplating why we know so much. We knew so much about depression, about poverty, about, how to fix things.
mhm,
And not just this country, but as American, we're known for, you need an army there, you got it. You need a spaceship, you got it. And I was just thinking, why aren't we fixing these things? Why aren't we making it better? And then, at the same time, I kind of said to myself, or someone said it to me, Carol, you have to do something about your sense of humor, or you're gonna feel crushed.
mm,
And I swear, Amy, she just was there. She was Dr. Ethel,
mhm,
and she was an orange, and she was English. She doesn't really know much about her background, and she was off, and she had a hat and makeup, orange, orange, orange makeup,
uh-huh,
and she could answer almost anything, and if she didn't know, she would say, and she is kind of on Instagram, I have to tell you.
okay.
So, but I'm just starting Instagram. I'm not like I'm getting tutored and therapized for it. So, just, don't judge me for that. But um she and what I like about her is that she's English. No, I really like that she's Dr. Ethel's very important Doctor. But as she likes to say, I am Dr. Ethel, but I'm not a doctor. She's not a doctor. She thinks she's kind of proud of that. I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure why, but that's how it came. And um, she comes and goes,
Mhm,
but she's kind of available.
mhm,
And yeah, it just sort of, there is something about English that, that makes things like, hello, you know, your hair is awfully long. It sounds like it does, it sounds funny,
mhm,
even though it isn't that funny. Your hair is awfully long, but your hair is awfully long. Um,
Mm. I love the way that, I don't know, somehow with a British accent, if they're telling you off, it sounds so polite too.
yeah.
Unlike a New Yorker telling you off versus someone with a British accent telling you off. It just makes it land so much softer.
It does, and I mean, it almost makes it seems like they don't mean it. Seem as if
Right.
they don't mean it. Like there
Mm.
is this, some people love it, some people hate it. We're giving it our second round of trying, and I think we're gonna like it this time. Slow Horses with Gary Oldman, and it's like, "Oh my god, does he tell his people off?" But it's like, you don't really feel he hates them.
Right. Right. I love it. And you brought up you kind of mentioned something there that I like to touch on a lot, and that was you had a friend bring up the fact that you needed to bring in a little more humor. And I believe that everybody needs more humor, especially anybody who's overcoming trauma, which is really difficult sometimes for them to get to that place, right? And so I would just force myself into humorous situations. And if I couldn't, I would go to a comedy club or I would put on a very funny video or whatnot. And sometimes it's what saved me was being able to get to the point of laughing until it hurt my stomach.
Yeah.
But I think humor, like they say, is laughter is sometimes the best medicine.
Well, it's funny because just to be clear, the friend was me.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't an outside friend. I was like, Carol, you need to do something about your humor.
Yeah.
Carol, I need to do something about my humor because it's like, um, and there used to be this book. It was a very, very long time ago. How to talk so kids will listen and how to listen so kids will talk. I really hated that. I hate formulaic. I don't do
Yeah.
well, and I do like authentic. Authentic, authentic, authentic. Gabor Mate says 2 things in life, acceptance and authenticity, and we need them both. But often, too often, we get acceptance at the price of giving up our authenticity, and, um, yeah, so I don't like, the formula kind of thing. I I've discovered my own insightfulness, my own insight, and I've invited people to come with me. I have learned so much from a girl who wasn't listened to by anybody, and she was in a court case, and everybody believed her charming father. Guess who would accept me? And
Mhm.
so they tried to fire me, but they couldn't because I was assigned by the law guardian. And I asked her if she would like to tell the judge anything, if she could. And she said, she was 6. She said, I would like to ask him to listen to kids as much as he listens to grown-ups.
Mm.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, anyway, here's the dancing mind. Bless my thought. So, there's a part of that is write a note to your kid under certain circumstances and make it funny. And I thought, "That's so awful." Because, some people are not funny.
Right.
I mean, and that the worst thing to do is force yourself to be cute or funny, and it's so inauthentic.
Mhm.
It's so much pressure.
Yeah.
So, I think it can be life-saving, and, there's this thing. I am Jewish, just to include that, and there is one of my favorite things about Judaism, is the way they do grief, and they sit around for a few days at certain hours, and
Mhm.
and people come to visit, and for some reason, they usually bring a coffee cake. Don't ask. It's sweet, goes with coffee, goes with whiskey, and there's always whiskey too. Um, and I tell people who are going into that situation, just be careful, or just you could find people hysterical crying, and you could find people hysterical laughing because there is a flow. It's fluid. If we're really allowed to do both, it's fluid, just as you could start out laughing at something and then you realize how poignantly sad it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Incredible. Incredible insights. Like I said, I could listen to you just all day long. I love it. I love it. And excuse me. Um, I don't know what about bringing the alter ego? What role did she play for you in other than the humor? How did that help you in your profession or even just your personal life? Because this is an interesting uh I don't know concept that I really haven't talked about on the show yet, and that is having the alter ego, but there is something to that. I used to do it all the time when I was a kid, you know, and now I'm thinking, well, man, why don't I do that now? Because man, that got me through so much when I was a child.
Yeah. Well, I it wasn't scripted. That's the thing.
Yeah,
But I have to say that it's not only with humor.
sure.
It's a little bit about the rebel side of me.
Hmm.
So, for instance, I guess people will turn you off if they know what side of the aisle I am, but they know already. You know, so this person was interviewing me for Instagram.
Hmm.
For Instagram, she was my Instagram therapist, and she said, "If you could be a doctor," she was talking to Dr. Ethel, "what kind of a doctor would you be?" And out of nowhere, Dr. Ethel goes, "You know, I'd really like to operate on your president." And she says, "So, are you thinking about a brain operation?" I go, some of the brain, but really the heart is what needs fixing.
Mm,
Therapy needs fixing." And I thought, it was a kind of impish,
mm,
like rebellious, but impish, like
mm,
whimsical as well, but kind of maybe sure of myself than, I've been sometimes.
mm.
So it's like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's that. But again, I'm really big on don't, like not prescribing humor because inauthentic humor is just so not funny. I mean, now I, there's New York Jewish humor. So there's a whole there's all kinds of humor. Now,
Mhm,
I had a woman in her 50s with her older parents. I do a lot of intergenerational stuff. I love it. And her father kept saying, "You know, I see myself in the mirror and I don't see any anger. My daughter and my son are the only people who see anger. I really don't.
mhm,
I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror and somehow I was able to just say, 'Have you thought about another mirror?'"
mhm,
He got hysterical laughing and he told his daughter that was it too late to try to find a therapist as confronting as me? Now, I wasn't just confronting,
mhm.
but I wasn't letting him get away with the I look in the mirror. So look in another mirror.
Yep, right.
And I can do it because I'm also Jewish in New York. And I think when we're like the most authentic,
Mhm,
we're we're the most chill.
yeah,
So when you look at Gabor Mate, he's not the funniest guy in the world, but when he does an interview, he'll say, "So you love me so much. So what?" Someone will say, "I love you, I love you, I love you." And he'll say, "Okay, so you love me so much. So what is it that you would ask the man that you
Yeah.
love so much?" And he just takes away the worship.
Mhm.
It's like he puts it with a little grain of salt. But you know what? I don't think you can teach this stuff.
No, no, I don't think you can. I don't think you can, you know? And you're right that that authenticity, that's really the key, to it, to all of it.
I mean, I just
It's
want to
so
say,
hard.
I, I, I do want to say that I think that kids,
Yeah.
most kids, and I'm going to say that I've had two kids. There are some kids who you cannot use humor with
Mhm.
for a number of years because they're very defensive or they have some ADHD and they're oppositional and they see humor as aggression. So
Mm.
you have to be careful about that. And there are other kids who are completely playful. When I had kids, I was shocked at how much kids talk when they feel there is an open mic. If there is openness to listening on the part of adults, they kinda tell you they're sassy and spicy,
Mhm.
you know, like, "Mommy, you're yelling at me," and if my teacher yelled at me, I wouldn't learn anything. It's like, "What is this?" But it's, like, great. It's also great, and, they taught me a certain beautiful impudence. Actually, we think I probably has a negative connotation, but it's actually kind of beautiful, and I have a granddaughter who goes, "How very dare you?" Like, it's so luscious. So I feel like if we let our kids play, they will sometimes play at our expense. And that's the best humor. When you're kind of poking fun at something,
Yeah.
your Jewish humor has a lot of poking fun of yourself at yourself, but you're kind of if I say I'd like to do an operation on the president, I'm kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
but so there is this I think what kids wanna do is say to parents, "You can't be serious about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense." And we often don't let them do it. I
Mhm.
I I think there should be, by the way, children on in probably every congressional meeting. Certainly, I'm going extreme now, but in terms of school, teaching, uh, almost on every board you can imagine, if
Mm.
you wanna talk about bullying, you need kids in that meeting too,
Yeah.
because people talk to kids, and they very often talk down to kids,
Mhm.
and they lecture, and that not only is it not playful, but it's not mutual.
Right.
Mutual, relational, authentic. Those are my 3 words for the day.
I love it. I just love it. I love it. And like I was saying, I could chat with you all day, but we're getting to the time here, and I wanted to get to your books and let the audience, number one, know where they can get them, but two, understand what are the books about? What can they find in your books?
Well, the human climate, um, facing the divisions inside us and between us, it's by Dignity Press. You can get certainly in Amazon. Technically, you should be able to get it at any bookstore anywhere because it has distribution.
Okay.
And that was more of a beginner's mind. I was really it has a lot of questioning in it. However, it has Carl Jung at the center of it. So once I discover him, well, he affects everything else. So
Mhm.
I would say it's a short, thought-provoking book that has some case examples, but not chock full, whereas the other one that is not yet out, I hope it will be out, January. I like the year 2026, actually. So, it's called and it's got a really beautiful title cover,
Mhm.
um, Vulnerability Protected,
Mhm.
um, Visions of a Dancing Mind. And this book, I'd say, is very chunky. That's a a weird word. It's chock full because it has a chapter on me,
Mhm.
the good, the bad, the ugly, as a chapter on caste and class.
Mhm.
It has a chapter on how vulnerability is what happens when it's crushed.
Mhm.
And then it goes into vulnerability as an addiction. Whose vulnerability is it anyway? When we kind of breathe in the vulnerability of someone else, the anxiety of someone else, and we own it and we can't get rid of it. And then I talk about vulnerability protected and protected then as courage. Because I really think that if we don't have space or we don't have the protection, we don't have the stamina,
Mhm.
to go up against um, someone when we have to. And the thing is, in terms that I hate debating, all right? I'm terrible at it. I think of it as a very brutal sport. But what I've learned to do with people who are combative is to kind of slow myself down and say, okay, you feel this way.
Mhm.
And I have to step back because that I'm aware that I'm being a little defensive and I have to think about it. I may have to think about what you're saying. I don't have the answer now. I've learned how to not engage always with someone who's going to take me down. And
Mhm.
I know that I am a very sensitive person. I all this stuff, this kind of articulateness, it's real, okay? But I earned it because I lost my English, that's how I used to say it, with kind of my brothers or with people who were very aggressive and pseudo smart. They seemed smart, they were insulting, and they were aggressive. And I just got mute. So I have, and then when I was in residential treatment, it sounds like for me, maybe I needed it then. But when I was working there, um, they really kind of tore me down. And I had to find ways of, yeah, of feeling protected enough. So I can't say that enough that I think that vulnerability needs protected, needs a protection, and that we deserve the right to know with whom to express it and when to keep it to ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. And everybody listening, you can get a hold of Carol at www.thehumanclimate.com. And of course, she's got Dr. Ethel on Instagram. So go follow her. Let's go pump that page up for her. I know it's going to be fun. And yeah, I'd love to have you back. And I'd love to have an episode with Dr. Ethel. And, we can get into a really fun topic. I think that would be amazing and a lot of fun for sure.
Hey, just so you know, she has winter attire and she has summer attire, and she has an orange, gorgeous wool coat from Italy. Just so you know.
Ooh, love it. Love it. All right. Well, we'll get this going here real soon then so we can see that beautiful coat. Love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Carol, for coming on today, and I really appreciate your vulnerability, your honesty, and your storytelling and sharing with everybody.
Well,
Different.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, and let me tell you, you couldn't do this if you hadn't done your own work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Uh,
I hear that, just so you know, I hear that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that because it's true. It's true. I've gotten to the point where I can talk about everything that happened without breaking down and, telling the stories and at this point it's just stories and yeah, it happened, but that's okay, and
And then, I say that I work for Kleenex because, should you break down, there's always a tissue.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, sometimes you need one. Yeah, sometimes. I just worked on an episode and it's going to come out here this week on surviving your first Christmas alone after you've, left your family. And oh man, did that bring back the feelings. I had to pause recording a few times, but I made it through and it's going to be a really good episode, I think. But there we go. Sometimes it does come back to you, especially when you're trying to put something like this together to help other
Yeah.
people through something difficult. But, in the end, it's going to make me a little stronger
Yeah.
than I was.
Part of its strength. It is part of the strength. It's part of you.
Yep. I love it. Well, thank you so much. And everybody, just so you know, some conversations, they don't wrap up very neatly. They linger, they unsettle, and they stay with you. And today wasn't about fixing yourself, optimizing your psyche, or arriving at any form of enlightenment. It was about remembering that being human is not a flaw, it's the work. And Carol reminded us that insight without courage becomes another hiding place. That shadow doesn't disappear when ignored, it organizes. And vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the doorway to empathy, connection, and actual change. And then there was Dr. Ethel, the reminder that humor can be holy and absurdity can save us, and that sometimes the most radical act is refusing to become numb. If this episode stirred something uncomfortable, well, good. That's usually the shadow knocking. Sit with it, get curious, and remember healing doesn't require perfection, only honesty. And this is Passion from Pain, where we don't bypass the mess, we mine it. And until next time, stay human, stay authentic, stay yourself. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.